study direct and indirect speech. Before that, we need to study direct and indirect object. You need to differentiate between direct object and indirect object. Direct object and indirect object. In a sentence, we need to able to identify which one is direct object and which one is indirect object. First, we'll see direct object. Direct object is what gets affected by action described by the verb. For example, she writes a letter. She writes a letter. Now, the word writes is a verb. It denotes action, and that action affects this thing later. It gets developed or created or changed. It gets modified. So, it is affected by the action mentioned in the sentence. So, that means the word letter is direct object because our action directly affects the thing mentioned in the sentence, which is later in this case. In this sentence, there is no indirect object. So, action affects directly is called direct object. So, we can say object is the receiver of process by the action. Direct object receives process, and that process may be changing the object, changing, modifying, or developing, creating, or destroying. Action directly affect the thing is called object, direct object. So, it is a receiver of process, and indirect object is receiver of the result of the action. Result is written later. Now that letter is supposed to receive by someone. So we'll write for the sentence, she writes a letter to her father. So now we know the result is received by her father. Result is written later. When it is processed or developed or written, it is result received by her father. So the letter is for her father. Result is received by her father. So receiver of the result is indirect object. Indirect object receives result written later. Indirect object receives result, and direct object receives process. Direct, indirect. Action modifies something. That something is direct object, and when that object is modified or changed or developed, it is received by some other person or entity. That is indirect object of that sentence. That's it for now.